Yay Networks.
So FLY stands for First Love Yourself. And what I learned on this journey was that before I can truly love anyone else or anything, I have to first love myself.
A quick note before we dive into today's podcast. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to subscribe to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, wherever you download your podcast. It would also be incredible if you take a minute to rate and review this podcast. Those things do matter and they really help us. I'm Molly Kimball. Welcome to Fueled, a wellness and nutrition podcast. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition journalist with a passion to help people live their strongest, healthiest life possible. In my weekly TV segments and columns, there's a limited amount of time and space to cover everything, but there's so much more to share. This podcast is my opportunity to dive deeper into the topics you want to know about. I am excited to share another episode of The Raw Truth. So The Raw Truth is sort of a sub-series inside our Fueled Wellness and Nutrition podcast. And this is where, we sit down with someone who maybe on the surface seems like they've got it all together. They're rolling through, they bring light into others' lives. We don't always know just what they've gone through or just how they've processed what they've gone through. So I am honored today to share with y'all The Raw Truth featuring Dr. Alisha Reed. I think you'll find it incredibly inspiring. I know I do. I have goosebumps now as I'm telling you her intro. It was really important to me to feature a Raw Truth story and Alisha's Raw Truth story now at this time of the year. Through the holidays, sometimes there's so much pressure to be festive. There's so much pressure to celebrate the holidays. And it can be a tremendous challenge when someone's grieving, whether the loss that we've experienced may have occurred around the holidays in years past, and each year the holidays bring this up, or we've had a loss and it's hard year round, but it's especially hard during the holidays. So I really wanted to have Alisha join us. She'll share the extreme, the intense journey of loss, of grief, and how she's had a rebirth and a growth while still honoring that loss, and how she has really purposefully set her mindset, her attitude, how she's embracing the holidays, and she's made it's been very purposeful. It hasn't just happened. And so I think that there's a lot that we can learn from Alisha, wherever we are in our stage of life, wherever we are with what we've been going through lately and kind of how we're going into this holiday season. I think that we can all learn from her mindset of choosing positivity and choosing happiness. So Dr. Alisha Reed is a mother. She's a pharmacist. She's a certified life coach. She is creator of the lifestyle brand Fly with Alisha Reed. And in 2014, she started her brand, Nola Bougie. And the goal that Alisha had was really to inspire women to live their best lives, becoming the best versions of themselves. Everything changed, though, 2 years ago, December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, 2019, when Alisha's husband passed away suddenly at the age of 43. She began to question her purpose. What is she doing? What is the meaning of what she's doing? And after the outpouring of love and so much compassion that she got from her following, her social media following, her real life community, and then also seeing how sharing her journey of healing and her journey of self-love, seeing how this has inspired other women, Alisha launched her brand, Fly with Alisha Reed. And her viewpoint is, and her passion is sharing with us that to live our best lives, we need to honor those we've lost, yes. We also need to understand and respect, and then ideally overcome our self-doubt, working to first love ourselves. And she's still, as she says, a self-proclaimed bougie, but Alisha really showcases and encourages women to see that there's so much more than that. So welcome, Alisha. I'm honored to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Whenever I heard the news of your husband passing, and learning this, and also learning this right at Christmas time, it was one of those things that I felt so much pain and being just on the sidelines looking in. And so I can't imagine the pain that it felt. And we're going to be talking about that. We'll be talking about the experience of losing your husband just 2 days before Christmas. It's debilitating. And talking about your journey of coming to terms with what life looks like now and allowing yourself to truly love and embrace and give everything that you have to this life. But before that, before we really get into that, beneath this, that's, I think, the visible part of Alisha. If someone follows you on social, if they know you, they know that experience.
Yeah.
It's very visible. Beneath that, there's an even more vulnerable truth. It's a darker truth that has helped to shape the person you are today. And so when you and I were talking earlier, you said, well, this is the real raw truth under that.
Yeah.
So walk us through there's, I think through all of our lives, there's things that, and I shared my raw truth in a podcast. And it was really hard. It was really hard because it's being very open about things that maybe we don't talk about all the time. But what we find is in our minds and kind of as we're both in our 40s, there's elements of our lives that are sort of these, like they're our identifiers. There are these milestones that when we look back, they have truly shaped who we've become. And you had this element of I guess turbulence even before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about all the experiences that I've had that make me who I am today. And just as you mentioned, everyone knows about my husband, and it's just, that's what they see. Okay. She's, dealing with the grief and the loss of her husband. But prior to losing my husband, I was in a domestic violence relationship, and that was from college until 2008. So it was an 8-year relationship that, if you think about it, I was in my 20s, and I lost myself. And a lot of people are ashamed to talk about that, to talk about those experiences. But for me, that was one of, and I don't want, well, I guess I can say proudest, but one of the things that truly made me who I am. And then the loss of my husband just added to it. And, that's my raw truth, and not necessarily the loss of my husband.
The strength that you've developed. And also I would imagine, like, coming out of a relationship, how many years? You were in it for about 8 years. 8 years. And you there's probably a lot of self-doubt that comes after that. A lot of questioning, like, well, what was wrong with me that I stayed in that?
Yeah. Definitely. When you are in that type of relationship, one, you're really brainwashed or, conditioned by the abuser to really think that you aren't worth anything, and, they beat you down. So I was totally knocked down when I left that relationship, and it was having to rebuild myself. One of the questions I remember asking my mom was, who's going to want me?
Yeah.
Who's going to want to be with me? And she had to say, baby, nothing is wrong with you. And nothing is wrong with you. And it took me a while to realize that, I was this amazing woman, and someone else just didn't see that. And just because they didn't value me, that doesn't mean that I wasn't valuable. You
also were susceptible to that very damaging relationship. And that, like you said, it's this very insidious thing when someone they start to get inside your mind and they start to change our perceptions of ourselves and our own self-worth. You were susceptible to that in spite of the fact that you came from a very loving family with parents who were very loving towards each other.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if someone is from not that, it's even easier to be all prey to that.
Yeah. And that's really one of the biggest misconceptions, because people always say, oh, if you were in that type of relationship, then you didn't have a father in your life, or you didn't have both of your parents, or, your economic status was, you wasn't great. But for me, it was, I had both parents in the home who were still married, and I was in pharmacy school. So I had a career. So all of those stereotypes, were out of the window for me.
How did you start to pull yourself from that, extract yourself from that relationship?
I think it just took a lot of prayer, and just really talking to myself and getting in my head saying, okay, this isn't right, or you don't need to be here. And, we're going to get through this.
Did you have, and I'm thinking too, like, while this isn't the bulk of what we'll be talking about today, I think that this is really important for people to hear, because if someone is in this type of relationship, and I see it sometimes with clients with nutrition, and we see when that spouse has come sometimes it has been so toxic. I have asked that spouse to step outside. Mm-hmm. And I've had a few people who have, one lady I remember in particular, she years later contacted me and said, do you remember when you had to ask my husband to step outside? That was the turning point for her, that she realized that it was toxic and that he was, just hyper controlling and all of this. And so I think that if someone's in this, like, what did you have friends, family that were like waving the warning flags? Like, what are you doing? Why are you putting up with this?
I think, and that's one of the questions that a lot of people ask, how can someone support you? Or, most commonly, why did you stay? And, when you are in an abusive relationship, they isolate you. So, I didn't really have access to my friends or my family. So they couldn't, say, let me help you. It was more, I was isolated. So I know my parents and one of my closest friends who, was with me every step of the way. And she wanted to know what she could do, but she couldn't. So you just have to wait. Yeah. And it's really on that individual. When they are ready, they will leave. When you get to that point, and we all know and I'm speaking to women who are in these relationships, and not just women, men as well, when you've had enough, and only you can get yourself out of that situation. So I know a lot of people want to help you, but they can't help you.
Sometimes it can drive you further away.
Yeah.
When people are like, I sense that there's a problem. You can almost get defensive of this person in this relationship. Was it physical abuse, emotional abuse?
It was all. Oh. And that's another thing, everybody just thinks, okay, it has to be physical. It was physical. It was also emotional, and words, and just like we said, when someone gets inside your mind, that's, for me, yes, we know about the physical, but your mind, when they start controlling your mind, that's very powerful. So for me, it was a mix of both, but just having control of my mind was just something that I wasn't really prepared for.
I think it's something for our listeners too. Like, even if it's not your partner, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, other people in your life that have maybe this sort of, level of control over emotions or toxicity and the interactions. Some people you may not be able to separate entirely from, but can we step away from? Mm-hmm. Can we minimize the influence that they have in our lives? And so I think while someone listening may not be in this, if there's people in our lives that are constantly chiseling away at our esteem and at our worth, if we're feeling really good about something and we share it with these people that are in our lives, and then it kind of, we're deflated after, and that happens over and over and over, we need to start to think about that they are sort of the people that are a little bit toxic. So it might not be as extreme as what Alisha had for those 8 years, but it's also still things that are chipping away at our own self. Let's take a minute to talk about Shirley, one of our sponsors for this week's episode. Y'all have heard me talk about our annual Alcohol Free for 40 challenge, which has been just incredibly eye-opening for all of us involved when it comes to our relationship with alcohol. And I love that there are so many mindful drinking support systems these days, from things like Dry January to Sober October, and so many zero-proof alternatives like Shirley. The team behind Shirley, what sets it apart is they spent nearly a year working with the finest winemakers in California to create a line of non-alcoholic wines that also don't compromise on taste. We know that going alcohol-free is tremendous for our mind, our body. Enhanced mental clarity, better sleep, solid energy, less bloating, less anxiety, less moodiness. So elevate your potential. Consider taking the time to reevaluate your relationship with alcohol. And it doesn't have to be complicated. The key is finding replacement behaviors that can work for you, like meeting friends for a walk and talk instead of drinks, or swapping out your evening glass of wine for Shirley. Try it for yourself. Head over to HiShirley.com. That's HiSurely.com. Use promo code FUELED to get 20% off your first order. For dry January, alcohol-free for 40 and beyond, there is no better time to try Shirley. So over time, like as you were choosing to step away from this, did you kind of plan? I don't want to say your escape. That sounds really dramatic.
No, it was an escape. You really have to think about it. And if you've watched these movies, all the movies just show how the woman like creeps out in the middle of the night. But it's really how it goes, because you can't like make an announcement like I'm going to leave, right? So it was, I really knew that I wanted to leave, and I came home and I just packed a small bag and I just got in the car and left. And, immediately after, I remember him saying, we didn't even have a fight. We didn't even have an argument. I didn't even expect you to leave. Nothing was wrong that day. And I'm like, great. That meant that you weren't expecting for me to leave. But it was, something about just knowing that, okay, this is the day. And I just left everything, just jumped in the car and had a couple of things, and that was it.
Did you go to your parents?
I did.
So knowing where you've got that safe space, knowing who's just going to be there, and then like kind of having your plan.
Yeah. And it was like, at that time, I'm not going to answer my phone.
Yeah.
So it's just knowing that, and then what to expect. So, an abuser, once you leave, they're going to try to get you back and say, I'm sorry, and it won't happen again. Just knowing that no matter what, you would never go back.
Right.
And that's where I was. It was like, I don't care what he says
or
what he does, I'm never going back.
Which is a lot of that strength that is just part of your core, that like once that decision's there, you're comfortable sticking with that decision. So like you said, questioning, okay, like why did I stay in that? Like, and then probably at that point questioning, well, how strong am I really that I allowed that to happen? And like you said, talking to your mom, who's gonna want to be with me, because you had been so, deflated at this point. But then 2 years later, you meet your husband.
Yes. So of course, entering in another relationship, you have to trust someone. Like that was really hard for me, trying to figure out if this person is going to hurt me, or, if they're abusive. So just really being able to trust someone. And, I met my husband while I was going through the legal processes. I ended up having to file restraining orders and all kind of other things that were going on. And I met him through a mutual friend. So it was just like, I felt like he was vetted. Someone else knew him, and, he knew what my situation was. And it was just from there, we just, developed a relationship. He wasn't my attorney, but it was really someone that I was able to talk to.
Right. So y'all are together, 2010 you meet, you have a son.
Yes.
And he's just like supports your ideas, your dreams, your passions, because you have now your mom, you have your career, and you're building this other side brand, and he's like supportive of all. He's just like all in it with you.
Yeah. I mean, I laugh because when we created the brand Nola Bougie, he was the one that trademarked it.
Really? Of course, right.
When I went to look up all the papers, I was like, he owns it. Just kind of joke because it was like, wait, he owns it. Like, I can't believe he put it, he put it under his name. Like,
was that after he passed away?
Yes.
You saw that? What do I need to do with this?
Right. The lawyer in him. But, we worked on it together, and he did like all of my paperwork and just made sure that everything was set up properly. So it was, a brand that was developed by the both of us.
He had a heart attack on December 23rd. But it was something that he actually had just been to his doctor and had a diagnosis before, but had not really taken it seriously. Yeah.
So, of course, looking back, I realized that, he had a hospital stay in October of that year, October of 2019, where he was admitted. And at that time, he received some information about a health condition, and he didn't want to stay. So he left the hospital.
He checked himself out.
Yes, he checked himself out. AMA, and I was out of town at the time. I was on a girls trip, and he was like, "Oh no, don't come home, don't come home.
I'm fine."
Yeah, I'm fine.
What had he been diagnosed with? Was it like?
It was blockage.
Okay.
Because he did state that he was starting a statin. So and he had.
Did he actually start the statin?
I don't think he did.
Okay.
I don't think he did, because I believe that he thought that he could change his diet and everything would go away, just based on the text messages that all of his friends received leading up to his death. We're going to change our diet. We're going to work out. Yes, come January. So it's like the New Year's resolution. But I had a nurse trying to reach him. I guess to follow up with him because of the diagnosis.
And he's like, I got too much going on.
Yeah,
I'll wait. I mean, I'll deal with that after the first of the year.
Yeah.
I've got parties happening right now.
So it's the holiday season.
Right.
And it's like, I have high blood pressure, and he was always getting on me like, okay, you shouldn't be eating that, or you should be doing this. And it's like, dude.
So I think this is going to be, the dietitian and the pharmacist with our finger wagging right now. If you have an indication or you have this warning, take it seriously.
Yeah.
Like, don't think you've got it beat, or don't think that just because nobody else in your family has it or whatever it might be, we can make excuses away, but like, we've got to take these things seriously.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people think that they can do it themselves, and, you can't out exercise, what does it say? You can't, out exercise a bad diet. Or
I'm so bad about those phrases. I always butcher them. But we know what you're saying.
But it was just like, he really thought that he could start working out.
Yeah.
Or he actually said, hey, I could work out. I go to the gym.
Right.
I'm like, if you have high cholesterol
and visible blockages,
you can't.
It's interesting. Like, whenever we have people who are diagnosed with high blood pressure and their doctor says, let's get you on a statin, often, but they're also wanting to make nutritional changes, we'll often say, and I've had Dr. Milani as one of our cardiologists, and he's brilliant in a whole bunch of other ways, one being his cardiologist with Oshner. And I had him on this podcast. We talked about a lot of hype, things that are kind of like health hype and what's in the headlines and what's the real deal. And, he and I were talking that like there's many opportunities where when someone has diagnosed with, let's say, elevated cholesterol, the physician may say, start a statin. And we'll say, talk with your physician and see if you can not start your statin right now. Give it 3 months for nutrition and exercise, and let's see if that cholesterol is improved. And as he pointed out, though, Dr. Milani pointed out, there are times, like what was in the case of Mo, where you don't have that window. Yeah. You need to start that statin. So when there's this visible blockage, when there's things that like your physician will know, and the tests and the reports that they're doing are going to help to guide that, is that statin a suggestion to help make up for bad diet and maybe you could improve it? Or is that like, no, like it's a game changer. It's a life changer. And in this case,
it was a game changer, like life changer.
Because, and you don't want to go back and what if, and so I don't want to really, it is a what if, like, well, what if he had started taking that statin?
Right.
And so it's one of those things. So anybody listening, if you're in this point, don't be that.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in it to create this. So you had this relationship that had been such a challenge, such a struggle, and then you meet Mo and things are just like rolling. You have the support, you have this love, you have this son now. How old was your son? And tell us his name.
He was 4. He's Mojo. He's Morris Reed III, but we call him Mojo.
Which is super cute.
He was 4. And at an age where it's like you think that they wouldn't understand what was going on, but he really does. He does. He gets it. How
do you talk with him about it now, or then and now?
I was very open with him. One of the decisions that I made since my husband had passed 2 days before Christmas is I didn't tell him until after.
Which is the beauty of a 4-year-old.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people say, well, how did he not notice? My husband traveled. So it was, for Thanksgiving that year, he was out of town at the Atlanta game. And he was also planning to go to the LSU game after Christmas. So it was, my son just assumed that, daddy was out of town until, a couple of days went by, and then I finally told him. But, when you have children who are going through these types of situations and grief, it's important to let them know and have those conversations with them. I know a lot of moms think that shielding them and hiding things from them is the right thing to do, but in actuality, it's not. You have to let your children know what's going on and then allow them to express their feelings. And that's one of the things that I make sure to and share with other people who are going through not just death, but other difficult life situations that we often assume that our kids cannot handle knowing what's going on, and they can.
We may not want to see them go through the pain,
yeah,
but that pain's not going to last forever.
No.
And it's helping to process that versus what are we setting them up for if we do continue to shield and buffer everything?
Yeah. I mean, we can't keep them in a bubble. So it's like we have to allow them to express their feelings and not have to hold it in.
Growing up, my parents were always very open with me. And in hindsight, I think about some of the things they shared, and I think, gosh, I was really young to have that heavy, conversation. But I'm glad that I did because, they were divorced. So they were each single parents. And I think I was the closest person they had. So, I mean, sometimes the 6-year-old was who they were sharing these really heavy things with. And I wouldn't have wanted to change any of that. So now, I mean, obviously y'all still talk about it. It's how did he help you get through it?
I think because since I told him and shared my feelings with him, we grieved together. So, there were many nights we were in bed crying together and sharing stories. And I remember when I packed up my house because I had to sell it because I couldn't live there. And I was crying, and my mom walked in, and then my son came in, and he came and said, "Mom, it's going to be okay. We're going to be fine." And, I stopped crying. And from that moment, he says, "I can always make you feel better, Mom." So now when I'm sad, he'll say, "I can make you feel better. Remember that time?" So it's just, he knows.
Like he was the hero.
He was. But he knows when I'm sad, and he can feel it. And he's able to tell me too. So some days he'll say, "I'm really sad because I miss Daddy," and it's okay. And I think that has been a huge help and, game changer on this journey. And I know a lot of people don't want to put that on their children, but I don't feel like he thinks that he's responsible for my happiness. I think that he knows that, we're in this together.
Neither of you are going through it alone.
Right.
You're very open with each other. You were saying that like sometimes if he gets upset about, like you might be rocking along fine, he gets upset about and has, shares this emotion and then like you get emotional with him. And then as a kid, he's like off to the next thing.
Yeah. Kids are like so resilient. And, there's lots of times where he'll get upset and get sad and, say, "I miss Daddy." And then I'll start crying and he's like, "Oh, well, where's my Pokemon toy?" So it's like I'm like totally broken down, and he's looking for his Pokemon toys
for like
and
hours.
It's just like but that's just how kids are, and that's just how they are, and I love that about him because it's he just shows you can have your little moment and then just move on,
and he keeps it in the present. He's also really mindful of wellness and health.
Yes. And it's so cute because, he just says we have to be healthy. And I just have to share, this is, we were talking about the Santa list, and we went through the celebration in the Oaks, and I had my name on the naughty list and he was on the nice list. So he said, "Mom, let me tell you how you can get on the nice list." So
he's being serious.
He was serious. So he was going through and he was like, 1, keep me safe. And I was like, okay.
I love that that's his.
Yeah, keep me safe. And then the second one was eat healthy. And I was like, oh my goodness. But so like he really, yeah. And it's, he will say, that's not healthy. We need to exercise. He loves yoga. He loves meditation. And it's just like, this is my kid. This is my kid. But He knows. And it's just,
he wants to keep you like
he wants to keep me here.
He experienced this with one parent. He's like, I'll be darned if this is going to happen again.
So it's just like, he says we got to be healthy.
Yeah.
And he's really, as a 6-year-old, you're like, wow.
So here's what I'm thinking, like other 6-year-olds, there's some that are very insightful, like Mojo. There's a lot that, okay, Mom, here's how you get from the naughty list to the nice list. You buy me XYZ, you take me here. Like, he's like, you take care of me and you eat healthy.
And then he said, I think the last one was do housework.
Oh, no way. Seriously?
Like, yeah. So I was like, okay. But I mean, keep me safe and then healthy.
Oh my gosh.
Like, oh, wow.
He is like this little old soul. He actually said housework.
Housework.
What kid?
Okay.
You started seeing a therapist as a result of Mo passing, but also Mojo.
Yeah.
So it's another thing I think that is, again, parents with kids, not like you said, shielding them, having them in a bubble, but providing this guidance so that this grieving process can be done as healthily as possible.
Yeah. We both started immediately. I remember messaging a therapist a few days after, because my number one question was, okay, 1, when do I tell him? 2, the funeral. Like, what does he come?
Right.
Does and I made the decision, like, his last memory of his dad was that night before.
Yeah.
They were playing with a scooter or a tricycle, but I never let him see. He did come to the services, but I never let him see my husband's deceased body.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want that to be his last memory. And that was just a choice that I made. There are some parents who allow them to see that, but it's just that those were the choices that I made and talked through with his therapist.
Right. But doing it with guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing it with guidance. And that's your choice. And other people, like you said, may have different things that they would have done, and I don't have kids, but I'm putting myself and I'm feeling myself in your space at that point. And I think I would have done the exact same thing. Why? I mean, because that can just be really traumatic.
Yeah.
It's already enough of everything else. Let's pause for a moment to talk about Headspace, one of our sponsors for this week's episode. So you may have tried meditation before and it didn't go so well, or maybe you felt like you were just doing it wrong. So if enhancing your mental well-being is part of your self-care plan, then you're going to want to check out Headspace. Headspace is your daily dose of mindfulness in the form of guided meditations in an easy-to-use app. I love that Headspace is just so customizable. Whatever we're dealing with right now, whatever the situation, Headspace really can help us to feel better. If we're feeling overwhelmed, they have an SOS meditation app for us. If we need help falling asleep, Headspace has wind down sessions for us. And for parents, Headspace even has morning meditations that you can do with your kids. We all deserve to feel as happy as possible, and Headspace is truly meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/fueled. That's headspace.com/fueled for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. It's their best deal offered now. Go to headspace.com/fueled today. With each of these that we kind of talked about, we talked about like the real raw truth, kind of like that, the experience that really started to build that core of your strength even before you met Mo, and then losing Mo. Like, these were coming out of these two experiences were really the darkest times of your life, that like when you look back, like that was like the dark years. So after the abusive relationship, kind of that self-talk, like I'm never going to be in a relationship with someone, and seeing all these red flags. And then after losing Mo, I remember you were like, I'm never going to post on social media again. Like, you were just retreating into it's like almost as if like everything around me is shutting down, and the world as I know it is over.
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly how I felt. I remember the post. The first post was when I let everybody know that morning that, I lost my best friend. And then the next post was, this is like the end. Like, I can't do
I'm
this
signing
anymore.
off.
I'm signing off. I can't do this anymore.
I got goosebumps again.
And it was just like, we did this No Labucci thing together. It was something that we worked on, we built, and just like he was a part of that. And I just did not feel like doing that again. And then I also felt like, when you're on social media, you're so vulnerable. Like your life is there, and it's like everybody knew him and knew us, and it was just like, that's just over for me.
Yeah.
And I made that decision, and then it was just so many people were, sending messages, and you get the condolences, but it was the messages where, you've inspired me, and what can I do for you? Or, we want to see you continue on your journey, and just, whenever you're ready to come back, we'll be here. And it was just those messages that I was reading that, had me thinking like, okay, maybe this is not it, and I shouldn't let it go or let this die. But I knew that I needed to come back, but as something different.
It's really cool that some of those words had that impact. Number one, that people that they made the effort, they like shared from their heart. And you and I we've talked before about like things people say in times of sympathy. And sometimes people are, it's a lot of the same. I'm so sorry for your loss. And then at that point, we're the recipient of sympathy, and it doesn't feel good. But so for those words to be like, take care of you. We love what you do. We love your energy. We love your messaging. And if and when you're ready, we're here. Yeah. That's just, in the social media world too, it's heartwarming. Yeah. In a space that's often not.
Yeah. I mean, and I knew from that point that I've really connected with people, and that it wasn't just posting pictures and getting likes. Mm-hmm. It was, I was really
having an impact.
And then people really felt connected to me. Yeah. And just like you said, when it happened, you felt it.
Yes.
So, which is so many people felt it. And
I remember where I was when I learned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really. Really. I remember like learning it and going, oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I really do.
So I just felt like I wasn't on the journey alone.
Yeah.
And like you say, there's people like, oh, there are people rooting for you. Like I really felt that.
Mm-hmm. So pulling from that, and, at that lowest point, you're like, I can't imagine how you felt. Like there's the most basic fundamentals of life, of self-care, of like getting through a day probably felt impossible. And so not being able to see ahead, not being able to see what exists ahead, and feeling like you just can't get out of it. And I think that the reason I wanted to do this now and in December is because I do think there are so many people, especially around the holidays, who have experienced loss at any time during the year. And when the holidays come, it's a challenge. It's exponentially worse when someone experiences that loss around the holidays, because then every year for the rest of your life, you associate these holidays with that loss at that time of the year. So how did you start to get through that? And kind of walk me through your thought process. And like, because now, looking back 2 years, it's like you're back, and we'll talk about also what's on the horizon, but kind of what's that mindset? So I guess for the person listening to this now, because this will be airing like mid-December, and there is so much grief, there is so much pain. I think about my dad. In our family, we have, I believe it's 3 people: his mom, his grandmother, and his brother, who all died on December 18th. Oh, wow. So on December 18th, our whole family, I'm always like, maybe we should all not leave the house, And by the end of December 18th, I'm always like, hey, checking in on everybody. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. And so for my dad, especially before he met my stepmom and there was a lot more joy that kind of came back, it was a really heavy time. The holidays every year for us felt very weighted down. So not just like kind of thinking holidays, but it is that, and I'm sure it's that with Mojo and talking them through that with the holidays, but kind of where does it even start for someone who's hearing this, who feels so deep in it and can't see that next step ahead?
I think first, it's just allow yourself to feel what you need to feel. So often we feel like, okay, well, I got to get through this, or, I have to keep going, I have to push through it. Allow yourself to be and just stay and feel what you need to feel. And, that's exactly what I did for the first year. Just allowed myself to just be in it. And if I didn't feel like being bothered, I wasn't. I didn't feel pressure to have to be happy for Christmas, because Christmas is this joyous occasion. And it's just doing whatever you need to do for yourself. That's when I really poured into the self-care and just loving on myself and doing what I needed to do. And, I definitely noticed a difference this year going into the second year. Obviously, I still replay everything, and it's emotional, but like this year it's like I'm really choosing to be happy and to embrace the holidays. And I made a conscious decision to not take Christmas away from my son. So he celebrates and he looks forward to it, because he doesn't associate my husband's death with Christmas, because he didn't find out until after Christmas. And I wanted that to be special for him to continue to celebrate it. I didn't want to take Christmas away from him. So it's all about now just making new memories. Like we're traveling and doing things and celebrating Christmas.
So how's it this year, last year, and also just kind of how's it feel just in general and things that you've been dealing with? I'm
actually better this year. I mentioned before that I think the first year I was numb, and it was like just going through the motions and trying to get through the first. And then now I'm approaching the second year, and I feel like I'm more in control. And by that, I mean in control of my experiences and my emotions, and not really paying attention to outside people and things that, people may say or try to project on the Christmas holidays, because, it is a sad time, because it is the anniversary of the loss of my husband. However, it's still Christmas and it's still celebration of life.
You're choosing how to identify this, and how to respond to it, and how to allow you to feel around the holiday.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to be sad. And I'm choosing not to be sad. I still miss my husband dearly. Almost, every day I still cry. But I know that for the Christmas holidays that I'm going to be in the Christmas spirit. I'm going to celebrate. And, we took our holiday pictures early because I wanted to take them before, I got wrapped up into everything. Right. And I know that there will be people who will inundate me with messages around
critical messages, or are they critical, or do they think they're being supportive?
I think all the messages come from a good place. And the thing about grief is people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I always say, just don't say anything. It's okay. You don't have to say anything. But I know that, on the 23rd that the messages are going to come in. Mm-hmm. And I've already made a plan. Like I have a plan. I'm not going to be on social media. I'm actually going to be traveling. So I'm going to be in a different mindset. So I will honor him and celebrate, his life before that, so that I can celebrate the holidays how I want to celebrate them with my son.
And you're right. There's people, which I think that is all beautiful. I'm wondering, like, as you're saying, I'm like, I wish there was one way to mass reply to all those texts that are going to come through, because even if you turned your phone off for a bit, I don't even think you have to reply to them. If someone is sending if I message you and said that, I'm thinking of you and you didn't reply to me, I'm not taking it personally.
No,
there's no pressure.
You don't have to. No. And then, and I want to talk about, even like the cards, sympathy cards and
words of sympathy, period.
Yeah. I don't like sympathy cards. And, I have lots of them and I haven't even read them all. When they started coming, I just put them in a box and they're in a box. And when you read them, it's like it brings you back to that day. So it's, it's a wonderful gesture.
Yes.
And, I appreciate it, but I just don't like sympathy cards. And I don't give those. I don't give sympathy cards out.
I shared with you when my mom passed away, we would get sympathy cards. And I don't know, I think it's also the word sympathy. And sympathy is a beautiful thing. You want people to, it's a beautiful, generous thing for people to feel that pain with you and for you, and they're expressing it. And it's what we're saying is not about that, but there's something about, so when the cards started coming in, I would I would just leave them on the counter. I wouldn't touch them. I wouldn't open them. And my husband, like after a few days, was like, there's more and more coming. Aren't you going to open these? And I was like, I don't want to. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't want to receive these cards. I don't want to be in a place where I'm receiving these cards. I wish my mom was still here. I wish we hadn't gone through this. And I don't want to be the recipient of sympathy.
Yeah.
It was strange.
Yeah. And I mean, I love, and if for anybody listening or you're thinking like, okay, well, what kind of cards should I send?
Right.
I love like the thinking of you cards and, just the I'm here cards.
Yes.
There are so many other cards that you can send. You don't have to go straight to the sympathy
You don't have
aisle.
to. I got one card from someone, Michelle, if you're listening, it was you. And it said, something along the lines of like wrapping you in love when words can't say enough. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. And I went online and I bought those. And I was like, this is what I'm sending because it touched me in a way that I loved that. I loved it, wrapping you in love when words can't say it. Yeah. And that's really what it is because there aren't words like, we don't know what someone's feeling right at that moment or anything. And then, so that to me was, so and also if someone just dropped an orchid, we had a lot of orchids around that time, specifically orchids, but something like that gives that. And if you do a sympathy card and we're not reading it, that's okay too, because it's also part about the giver knowing that they gave it and having that expression. Yeah. I don't think that everybody feels the way we feel. But some people do.
I mean, and definitely, but there's somebody that's going to say, oh my goodness, that's how I feel.
Right.
And that's okay. It's just, I just like to let people know that they aren't alone.
Yeah.
Like if you're feeling like this, we are too. And, if you're not feeling, it's okay. It's just, I want other people to know that they are not alone on this journey and thinking like this.
As you said, you like the, just the thinking of you, mm-hmm. like some of the like the words that I'll share with someone is that like, you're in my heart. Yeah. Because this, that is how it feels versus I'm so sorry for you. Yeah. That's two very different things. Yeah. Yeah.
Cause I don't like the, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you because I don't want you to feel sorry for me.
Right. But I don't mind being in your heart.
Right. And it's just the words are like so powerful. Yeah. I don't like the I'm sorry.
They hit you really hard. And again, maybe others are not this way and we don't necessarily, I know this is like sympathy card etiquette or, but I do think it's something to just think about of like sometimes how those words are. Cause when someone's already feeling that really low and you're thinking that like everything's over as you know it, it's just what are words that can help to build someone up and let them feel like the world around them is helping to lift them up. And I think to me, that's sort of what I hope to convey with the words. And just like you said, that, that you're loved and that like that you're not alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially just, knowing that someone is there. I've said before, people don't know what to say or, do. And it's really just don't say anything. There are people that I know who are there for me. If I'm having a rough day and I just pick up the phone or send a text saying, I need someone to have dinner with or lunch with. And I just know that those people are there. Mm-hmm. And that's for me is
it's everything.
It's everything to know that if I pick up the phone and text this person that I know that they're going to drop what they're doing and like have lunch or have drinks or take a walk or do something. Yeah. So those are the things that we really need and we really appreciate.
And it's showing truly that love and lifting up and that they're not alone. Yeah. Let's talk for a minute about Billy, sponsor of this week's podcast and an Allure Best of Beauty winner. Self-care and routine are more important than ever. So whatever we're using to get ready for the day should leave us feeling amazing. Billy has recreated everyday essentials by delivering premium razors and high-performing body care directly to you. Go to mybilly.com to get their crazy affordable starter kit that includes their award-winning razor, 2 precision 5-blade refill cartridges, and a cult favorite magnetic holder. I love Billy's products. You will too. They leave our skin feeling so soft. And to express a little love for our show, you can go to mybilly.com/fueled. It's a small way that you can support us while also getting the best razor you'll ever own. It's just $9 to get your starter kit plus free shipping always. Go to mybilly.com/fueled. That's spelled mybillie.com/fueled. So as you go through this, you have this devastation. You feel that you can't see that next step ahead. But then you kind of, over that first year, like you said, you're sort of numb for a lot of it. But then you're starting to realize, okay, my life is far from over. At the time, you're 40. Mm-hmm. And then, at some point, you're like, okay, I've made it to the other side. Yeah. And so, like, what's next?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we've said this when we were talking before. Like, I truly believe that I'm amazing.
You are, which is why you're like, why I wanted you to do this. Exactly.
So, it's like to the point where I know it. A lot of people say, you're amazing. And, that's a great compliment. But I truly believe that I'm amazing because I know what I've gone through and like I've made it to the other side. So it's, really about, okay, what's next? And what's next in, something amazing is going to happen for me. And that's like, I know that once you go through all of these things that there has to be something on the other side.
And so you look at, with life with Mojo and being a mom to him and the self-care that you're working in. And like, for you, self-care is the downtime. It's the mindfulness. It's yoga with him. And then eating well and things for downtime. Well, I guess what else is kind of part of your self-care?
For me, a huge part of my self-care are my affirmations, like making sure that I am telling myself what I need to hear to start my day. Like that's the number one thing. A lot of people make the mistake of saying that, I'm going to have a bad day or, I spilled my coffee. Now my day is ruined. So it's like when you start your day like that, of course, everything that happens after this point is going to be bad.
Self-fulfilling.
Because you've already said it. So I make it a point to start my day off with an intention to set me up to have a good day. And then if something bad happens during the day, then it's like, I already know it's going to get better because I've already said that I'm going to have a great day.
How does that look when you are giving yourself this affirmation and setting this intention? Is it in your head? Do you say it out loud? Do you write it down?
I have different things. Like sometimes I read them because I've written them. And I have like a little bucket of like a whole bunch of affirmations. So I have that.
You'll just pull. It's like luck of the draw.
And then I have an app that gives me affirmations. So it depends on how I'm feeling that day. And then some days I have this song. It's like an affirmation song. And I'll listen to that if I'm getting dressed. But I always make sure that when I'm getting up in the morning, that's the first thing that I do. Obviously I do pray, but my affirmation is what really sets me up for a good day.
And with self-care, with, exercise and nutrition and, that nourishment for you and Mojo, downtime, it seems like you have a whole lot going on between work and then things with social, things with him. Is finding downtime a challenge?
It seems like it would be, but it really isn't because I say no a lot. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people like, oh my goodness, you're always doing something, but I do say no. And it's simple. If there's, if I don't feel like doing something or going somewhere, I just say no. So that's really how I create my downtime. I look at, a calendar and see where I can fit in time for myself. Like I schedule my self-care.
Right.
Yeah. So I make it a priority.
And then are you able to separate and put phone away, put media away, like not be accessible during that time?
Yeah. So I'll use the do not disturb, turn off notifications,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes turn the phone off. So if I know that I want to take a social media break, I just take everything off the phone and I reinstall it when I need to.
So you'll delete the apps entirely. Yeah.
Because the notifications, like I shut those off.
Yeah.
But I make it a conscious effort and I schedule it. So like I know that from December 23rd to I think January 3rd that I'm gonna be off social.
And you take it off your phone and all that. That's great.
And then I'll reevaluate. If I want to come back, then I'll come
Right.
back. But yeah, I mean, I think that's important because so much the internet,
It's so much.
it's so much going on. And then for me, it's all memories now popping up. So I choose to separate myself from that.
Well, it's the internet, and then it pulls us into this world that is not actually
Yeah.
our current world.
Yeah.
With the people and what's happening right in front of us, because we're so connected with what's pinging us from the electronics. I mentioned as we were silencing our phone for this podcast, I have all of my alerts turned off, every single one of them. Like nothing alerts, nothing pops up on my screen to alert if there's a text message, if there's an email, if there's a social media notification, nothing. The only phone call that'll ring that comes through, I have it set for like my husband's. And like people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, because I just was finding that it was too stimulating. And I would be like in a project or thinking about something or kind of in that creative space, or especially like even with work, and I'm trying to I'm in a project or create it. And then my phone would be lighting up, just a little banner popping up. And I'm like, and it would, just that it was like, it was creating a sense of like ADD.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have them all turned off.
Yeah.
I run into some problems sometimes. It's like, I tried to call you, I tried to text you, I tried to do this. I'm like, oh, I had no idea.
Well, I did that like immediately after my husband's death. Like I turned like all the notifications off and like just made it so like no one could get through. And I realized that was not a good thing because people are like, oh my God, thinking
they're coming by your house. They're like climbing through your window to come check on you. Right.
I was like, wait, I gotta let people know before
I'm okay. Yeah. No, that's hilarious.
So I do give people like a notice because even on social media, when people don't see me posting or doing stories, like they get worried.
So given that announcement that, hey, I'm stepping away.
Yeah.
So talk with us about what's next, because, you kind of, it's quite convenient because you really have year to year. It's calendar years as you look at this journey. So year one was a lot of recovery from it, a lot of rebuilding, a lot of coming to terms with your feelings. Year two was starting to have more clarity and starting to feel yourself again and to have that life and that passion through. What's next? What's coming up next?
Well, I like to say, most people say I'm turning the page and it's a new chapter. I am closing this book. And when I say that, it's just like I'm closing the book on this whole, I don't want to say closing the book on the grief journey, but just this book of my life and starting a new one. And then this new one, it's really about writing my story, like my own story, not a story tied to the death of my husband. But this is my story of, resilience and, building a new life. Like this is what it looks like. And this is how I'm moving forward.
This rebirth, this growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I will be a widow until I remarry, but I really want to separate myself from just being the widow. Like, I don't want people to think of that, because that's not, until my husband passed, that's not what I was known as or known by. So I want to get back to me as Alisha Reed. Like, this is me. And then this is the book, this new book. And it's, it's a new book. So it's not a book that you've read before. So this is all new, and I'm just excited about it.
And so you have a podcast.
Yes.
So tell us the different ways that someone can follow you and keep up with you, and also what each is, because your podcast has been called The Fly Widow.
Yes.
So you're changing that.
No. So the podcast will still be the Fly Widow podcast, because that podcast is geared towards widows. I mean, you don't have to be a widow to listen, but the guests are widows. So I do want to continue to highlight the widow journey, because it really talks about not so much about the loss of our husbands, but on how we're moving forward. So I want to keep that. So it's Fly Widow Podcast. I do have my social. It's Fly with Alisha Reed. And then my website is Fly with Alisha Reed or flywithlish.com. But flywithalishareed.com will take you there too.
And with the exception of the podcast, your website, social, the content that you'll be sharing is going to be shifting this year coming up too.
Yeah. So the content will be about self-care, which is really what it's always been, but just more of a focus on self-care. And then I also want to blend in my pharmacy career. Right. So the self-care pharmacist, I'm filling self-care prescriptions. So everything is about how you can practice self-care daily.
And discovering different practices or just, bringing in different experts who can help guide. And you were saying some of the things that maybe aren't top of mind when someone thinks of self-care, but the things that really matter, and kind of exploring it, learning it yourself, immersing, and then sharing that with followers, with people through that. And so I think to me, it truly feels like the rebirth and the growth that is coming from this.
Yeah. And I just want people to know that self-care doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to spend 3 hours at a spa. Self-care is really taking care of you, and you define that. So having a healthy diet, exercising, sleeping late, saying no, taking a vacation, all of those things can fall under the self-care bucket. So it's just whatever you need to do to make yourself feel like you again. And
that's been more and more what you've been allowing yourself to do, and not feeling a guilt around this, or not feeling like you need to still be connected to this loss, that you're honoring this loss and you're looking forward for what's next.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Y'all can see why I was so looking forward to having Alisha on this podcast. I find her incredibly inspiring. I know that she has, she doesn't always love being referred to as strong. She says that she's not any stronger than any of us, but it's the choices she makes. It's the life that she's choosing to create, and it's the mindset that she's very deliberate about keeping in place, and she's worked really hard to get there. So I find her inspiring. I find her strong. I find her a great role model for, when we feel challenged this time of the year. It can be a really hard time. Dealing with loss can be hard any time of the year, and especially around the holidays. And so to hear from someone who still so recently has experienced that loss and has made this very, very conscious decision in how to move forward, I love it. And I hope you did too. I'm registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. If you would like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, you can head over to mollykimball.com, and you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And we'll be taking a little hiatus for the holidays, but join us when we're back in January for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life.